Okay, let's unpack this mystery. We're talking about the bottom of the world, Antarctica.
Yeah.
Imagine just absolute silence. This huge, stark landscape. Edge of the known world, really.
Yeah, Vast doesn't even begin to cover it.
And then picture figures in that silence. Things that, well, according to a lot of accounts we've looked at, they don't talk, they don't seem to leave tracks, but they're there, watching.
Yeah, the Ice Wall Guardians. It's a name that keeps cropping up, isn't it?
It really does.
And not just, recently online. We're pulling this from a whole stack of sources for this deep dive. Things like alleged declassified documents, bits of old expedition journals, even old military reports that somehow leaked out over the years.
Exactly. So our mission here really is to sift through all that and try to piece together the story. What might really be going on down there, especially where the official stories just kind of go quiet.
Because that's the core thing these sources point to again and again. The standard explanations for Antarctica, they just don't seem to square with all the weird reports, the intense secrecy.
Right. There's this feeling, this undercurrent in the sources that something massive is being hidden, something really profound.
And the roots of this whole idea, the Guardians thing, it goes back surprisingly early, like way back to the first real explorations. We probably need to start with Sir James Clark Ross, 1841, British explorer.
Oh, yeah, the HMS Erebus and Terror expedition, famous ships.
Infamous, maybe, later on.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, their goal was charting the magnetic South Pole. Huge ambition for the time.
And they hit the wall, literally. This colossal sheer wall of ice. How high was it again?
Over 150 feet,
Yeah.
straight up from the sea. What we now call the Ross Ice Shelf.
Yeah.
But the sources, the descriptions from the crew, they didn't just see it as ice.
No, it sounds like it felt different to them, like it was deliberate, almost like architecture.
Exactly, like a massive rampart, an impenetrable barrier built to keep people out, guarding something beyond. That feeling right there, that's where you see the first whispers of this Guardians of the Ice idea taking root.
Seeing the ice itself as a kind of sentinel.
Pretty much. And for decades after Ross, Antarctica just stayed this blank spot on the map, terra australis incognita. Every trip down there just seemed to raise more questions.
Until the world changed dramatically after World War II.
Right. That brings us to the late 1940s. Operation High Jump, massive U.S. Navy expedition led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Huge scale, wasn't it? Thousands of personnel, loads of ships, aircraft.
Officially, it was about setting up a research base, Little America the Feeth, and doing cold weather training. Standard stuff, on paper.
But it's what Byrd said after he got back that really lit a fire under the whole mystery, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In a press interview back in Chile, he said some really puzzling things, talked about a vast unexplored territory beyond the South Pole.
He described it as, what, as big as the United States?
Yeah, and crucially, unseen by any man. An entire hidden landmass. I mean, you can imagine how that landed.
Yeah, that's the kind of comment that gets people thinking, especially people who already felt the world map wasn't quite complete.
Precisely. It fed right into alternative worldviews. People who questioned the standard model of the Earth, they really picked up on Byrd's words.
So you get the flat Earth connection emerging,
Right.
where Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom.
But this immense ice ring around a flat plain, a retanking wall holding in the oceans.
And if that's your view, that wall is everything.
It's the most critical piece of geography there is. So these sources argue he would absolutely need defending. You'd need guards, sentinels,
And the ice wall guardians.
placed there by who? Governments, secret groups, to stop anyone finding out the truth.
That's the idea presented in those sources, yeah. It might sound fringe, but it tapped into a growing distrust of official narratives, especially about Antarctica.
And then completely the other way, you had the Hollow Earth folks taking notice too.
Right. They heard Byrd talking about vast lands beyond the pole and thought, he didn't find more surface land. He found openings, portals.
Into the Earth's interior, like Agartha or something. Exactly. Hidden civilizations, maybe ancient, maybe advanced, living inside the Earth, protected by gateways, often hidden in remote places like Antarctica.
So in that view, the Guardians are protecting the entrances, keeping us surface dwellers out.
Yeah, so you see how these different, sometimes opposing ideas all kind of converged. You had the early exploration mystery, Byrd's baffling statements, and these burgeoning alternate theories all feeding into this legend of Guardians.
And it wasn't just theories. The actual reports coming out of Antarctica, especially after High Jump, they got stranger.
Oh, definitely. The sources describe Antarctica becoming this real focal point for high strangeness.
Like during High Jump itself, 1946, 47.
Yeah, there were persistent whispers among the crews, Talk of seeing UFOs, not just lights, but distinct craft.
Sleek, silent, saucer-shaped things. The classic flying discs.
That's how they're described.
Yeah.
And moving impossibly fast, making maneuvers that just defied physics as they knew it.
Okay, seeing weird stuff is one thing, but some accounts get darker, don't they? Mentioning actual confrontations.
Yeah, that's the really disturbing part in some of these reports. Rumors, heavily suppressed apparently, but they persisted. Stories of these disks being actively aggressive towards the U.S. Navy ships.
Firing energy beams. Things that disabled equipment or personnel.
That's the claim in some sources. And those sources suggest that encounter, that hostility, was the real reason high jump was cut short, not the official story about the approaching winter.
Wow, so the crew supposedly came back, convinced they'd met hostile guardians?
Shaken is how it's described. Convinced they ran into something non-human, fiercely protecting its territory. And the weird reports didn't end there.
No, you hear about scientists, researchers at remote bases in the decades since, seeing things.
Shadowy figures. Tall, indistinct shapes seen just at the edge of camp lights, often vanishing instantly if someone tried to get closer.
And the footprints. That's a creepy detail.
Right. Unidentifiable tracks just appearing in the snow, going for a bit, and then stopping dead, as if whatever made them just blinked in and out of existence.
There was that specific Chilean incident, too, wasn't there? Mid-60s.
Yeah, 1965. A Chilean scientific team. During the twilight hours, which are notoriously eerie down there, they reported seeing these large, dark silhouettes moving around their camp.
How did they describe them?
Tall, like any animal known down there.
Yeah.
Slow, deliberate movements. The report says the team panicked, radioed for help.
And the official explanation was?
Predictable, really. Optical illusions, tricks of the light, fatigue, the usual dismissals. But according to the accounts, the witnesses themselves were adamant. They felt they'd escaped something terrifyingly real and unknown.
Then you layer on top of that the whole Admiral Byrd's secret diary controversy.
Ah, yes. That's a big one, though its authenticity is very heavily debated. We have to stress that. It supposedly surfaced years after his death.
Well, what does it claim? Because the claims are pretty out there.
They are. It allegedly details a secret flight Byrd made, unauthorized, in February 1947, right after high jump officially ended, over the South Pole.
And during this flight.
His plane was supposedly taken control of, remotely, by some unknown force, guided towards an opening in the ice, and then into a hidden subterranean city beneath the ice cap.
A whole city under the ice. Who was supposedly living there?
According to this alleged diary, tall, fair-skinned beings, highly intelligent, they communicated with him telepathically.
Telepathically. About what?
Warning humanity about nuclear weapons, about our destructive path, expressing deep concern. Now, real or not, you can see how that story, even as a rumor, poured fuel on the fire. Hidden civilizations, powerful guardians.
It ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? And sightings didn't stop in the 40s or 60s. There are more recent military accounts referenced in the sources.
Definitely. Like a U.S. Navy pilot in 1997. Story goes he accidentally flew into a restricted no-fly zone over Antarctica.
And he was intercepted.
Almost immediately. By two bright, glowing white spheres. He apparently called them the Eagles. They moved with incredible speed and precision, no sound, and basically just escorted him right out of the restricted airspace.
And afterwards?
Intense debriefing. Interrogation, basically. And stern warnings. Absolute silence. Never speak of it. That's the account. Anyway.
Then there's that former Navy SEAL story. Brian, the pseudonym he used.
Right. This one's quite detailed and unsettling. He claimed his unit was on a very clandestine mission early 2000s. Investigating a specific cave system deep in the Transantarctic Mountains.
And what did they allegedly find inside?
Something extraordinary. Massive, dark, sort of pod-like structures. And within them, gigantic humanoid figures. He estimated over 15 feet tall.
Alive?
Appeared to be in suspended animation. Frozen, maybe? He described their skin as looking almost like dark, biological armor plating.
It's quite a discovery. What happened next in his account?
Higher-ranking officials showed up out of nowhere, very abruptly. The cave was immediately sealed off. The SEAL team was ordered total silence, backed up by serious threats. Imagine seeing that and then being told to pretend it never happened.
It's intense. And around the same time, early 2000s, you also get the Ningen reports starting.
Yeah, the Ningen. That's Japanese for human. Reports started coming from Japanese whaling ships, research vessels in the Southern Ocean.
Seeing what exactly?
An enormous creature, pale white, swimming in the freezing water. Estimates put it close to 90 feet long.
90 feet? And why human?
Because of its reported features. Disturbingly anthropomorphic, apparently.
Yeah.
Rudimentary arms and legs. Some accounts even mention a vaguely human-like face. Sightings were always fleeting. Then it would dive deep and disappear.
So the question is that some totally unknown giant marine animal maybe, or
Yes.
is it something else?
Exactly. Is it undiscovered megafauna? Or is it another form of these guardians maybe patrolling the waters around the continent, extending their territory?
When you put all these accounts together, sailors, pilots, seals, scientists, birds' alleged diary, it really paints a picture, doesn't it? It suggests a land that isn't empty at all.
Far from it. It feels watched, guarded, maybe even actively defended.
Okay, so if we try to pull together all these descriptions from the sources, what do these guardians supposedly look like, assuming they're real, based on these accounts?
It's fragmented, pieced together, but there are consistencies. The main one, they look human-like, basically 2 arms, 2 legs, upright, but definitely not human.
And size is the big factor.
Huge. Almost every account emphasizes their height. They're reported as being incredibly tall. 7 feet seems like the minimum, often much taller, 12 feet, even reports mentioning 15 feet or more, like the seals account. Just dwarfing humans.
Does the build vary?
It seems to. Some sources describe them as quite thin, almost lanky or wraith-like. Others talk about immense, powerfully built giants, like they're made of rock or ice.
And their appearance, skin color.
Almost universally described as extremely pale. Chalky white, sometimes a translucent icy blue. This lets them blend in incredibly well with the snow and ice. Masters of camouflage.
Is it skin or something else?
That's a question raised in the sources. Is it natural skin? Some kind of bioengineered suit? Or maybe advanced armor that mimics the surroundings? We don't know.
Any other features mentioned? Hair? Eyes?
Occasionally. Some reports mention long, flowing white hair, or maybe a dense white fur-like covering. And the eyes, sometimes described as glowing faintly, or reflecting light very intensely, like a cat's eyes at night. Pretty unsettling details.
Yeah, definitely. But maybe even more revealing than how they look is how they supposedly act, their behavior.
Absolutely. Consistently portrayed as masters of stealth. They don't seem to seek contact. They prefer watching from a distance, from cover, shadows. Sightings often happen in bad visibility, snowstorms, fog, twilight.
Until someone gets too close to certain areas.
Exactly. Then they seem to react. Their role comes across very clearly in these accounts.
Mm-hmm.
They are protectors, sentinels, guarding specific off-limits zones.
And how do they react to intrusion?
It seems to escalate. First, maybe environmental manipulation. Sources talk about sudden, localized freak storms, intense winds, blinding snow appearing out of nowhere, seeming almost engineered to disorient people, drive them back.
And technology failures.
Yeah, that's another common element.
Yeah.
Sophisticated gear just inexplicably failing near these zones. Compasses go crazy, GPS dies, radios cut out, vehicle engines stall. Suggests an ability to project some kind of interference field, maybe an EMP.
Okay, so storms and tech failures. What if someone pushes past that?
Then it gets more direct and more frightening, according to some accounts. People report hearing these deep guttural sounds, roars, growls that apparently vibrate right through the ice, causing sheer panic.
And the most extreme encounters.
Those accounts are often the most debated, but they talk about direct force, powerful energy blasts being fired, concussive sound waves, even claims of telekinetic abilities pushing or throwing intruders physically.
Wow. Did they ever try to communicate?
Mostly, no. The pattern is appear, intimidate, deter, vanish, silence. But there are a few unusual stories mentioning telepathic communication.
Like projecting thoughts.
Simple, forceful warnings, apparently. Things like, you don't belong here, or leave this place, beamed directly into people's minds. And of course, Bird's alleged diary claims a much more complex telepathic conversation.
But mostly, they're silent sentinels. Their actions speak for them.
That seems to be the overwhelming picture painted by the sources, yes. Presence and action convey the message. Stay away.
Which leads to the biggest question of all, really. If these beings, these guardians, are real, according to these sources, where on Earth or off Earth do they come from?
Yeah, that opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? The sources speculate wildly. Are they terrestrial or extraterrestrial?
The ET angle is pretty popular in some circles, right?
Definitely. The idea that maybe an alien race got here ages ago, set up shop under the ice, Antarctica is perfect for hiding. Their described appearance, tall, pale, sometimes slender, gets linked by some to alleged alien types like Nordics or tall whites from UFO lore.
What about terrestrial origins? Could they be Human or related to us.
That's another major thread.
Yeah.
Maybe they're remnants of a lost, forgotten human civilization. Highly advanced, survivors of some ancient cataclysm. Think Atlantis, Lemuria, maybe, who retreated deep underground or under the ice.
And now they're guarding their secrets, their ancient tech, from us surface dwellers.
That's the theory. Or go even further back into myth.
Like the Nephilim, the giants from ancient texts.
Exactly. Some sources connect the Guardians to myths of giants. Maybe the Nephilim, beings born of fallen angels who were judged and imprisoned deep within the earth, perhaps under the poles.
So the Guardians could be these ancient beings or their descendants protecting their prison domain.
It's a fascinating, if highly speculative, link made in some of the material. Then you got the more pragmatic, I guess, conspiracy theories.
Like they're actually human, just very secret military units.
Yeah. Highly elite soldiers, kitted out with next-gen white camouflage, maybe experimental tech, advanced non-lethal weapons that look otherworldly. Their job. Patrol forbidden zones, act as deniable deterrents, keep people away from secret bases, resource deposits, maybe even crashed UFOs or artifacts the government wants kept hidden.
That almost sounds plausible in a way, compared to giants or aliens.
It's certainly a more grounded explanation, though still deep in conspiracy territory. And then there's maybe the darkest idea.
Genetic engineering.
Disturbing speculation that these beings aren't natural at all, products of secret experiments. Maybe rogue Nazi programs from Base 211 or U.S.-Soviet Cold War projects gone wrong. Creating beings designed for the Antarctic extremes, now used as guards for whatever dark secrets those programs left behind.
So basically the sources offer up everything from aliens to ancient giants to secret soldiers to lab-grown mutants.
Pretty much. The actual origin, if there is one, is completely lost in speculation, fear, and layers of denial, according to everything we've looked at.
But if they are real and seemingly powerful enough to inspire all these theories, why isn't this common knowledge? Why no official investigation? Why the silence?
Ah, the veil of secrecy.
Yeah.
And many sources point to one key instrument that helps maintain it, the Antarctic Treaty System, signed back in 1959.
Okay, officially that treaty is about peace, science, international cooperation, right? No military bases, no weapons testing, environmental protection.
All true. On paper, it's about preserving Antarctica for peaceful scientific study. It prohibits military activity, freezes territorial claims, bans mining for now. Sounds noble.
But the alternative interpretation in these sources
Is that the treaty had a hidden agenda from the start, that its real purpose was to cordon off the continent and manage the secrecy around something huge that had already been discovered or encountered.
like the Guardians, or in their tech, or
Well-
hidden realms, something too big, too paradigm shifting for the public to handle.
That's the hypothesis. Some sources explicitly suggest Bird's strange warnings, and maybe the alleged hostile encounters during high jump were the wake-up call, the catalyst that made world powers suddenly agree to neutralize this massive continent.
So the theory goes, governments found out about the Guardians, realized they couldn't control or defeat them, and chose cooperation. Containment.
A pragmatic path, yeah. Maybe some kind of clandestine understanding was reached, a secret pact.
Like, you let us poke around the edges for science, we keep everyone else away from your main territory, and nobody talks about it.
Something like that. It's speculative, of course, but it would potentially explain why this strategically vital continent, likely full of resources, was suddenly declared off-limits by all major powers acting in concert. Why rivals found common ground in locking it down.
Maybe they're not just protecting penguins and ice cores. Maybe they're protecting us from the truth, or protecting the Guardians from us.
That's the unsettling implication woven through many of these accounts. That the treaty and the secrecy it enables serves to manage an encounter that already happened.
And even today, there are things that keep feeding this suspicion, right? Signs of ongoing secrecy, weird visits.
Absolutely. You look at some of the high-profile visitors to Antarctica in recent years, their trips often seem odd. Take John Kerry in 2016, U.S. Secretary of State at the time.
You went down there. What for?
Officially, climate change research, meeting scientists. But the timing, he flew down on U.S. Election Day.
Election day. That is weird timing for the top diplomat.
Extremely suspicious, many observers noted. It fueled speculation. He was really there on some undisclosed mission, maybe related to these deeper Antarctic secrets.
And wasn't there a major religious figure, too, around the same time?
Also 2016, Patriarch Kirill of Moscow, head of the Russian Orthodox Church. He went down officially to consecrate a tiny wooden church at a Russian base and meet researchers.
Again, seems like a long way to go for that.
Right. People question the necessity, the symbolism, led to speculation about secret religious rituals, maybe linked to entities or otherworldly secrets believed to be hidden there.
And Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut. He went in 2016, too.
Yeah, he did, at 86 years old. But his trip was cut short. He had to be medically evacuated with fluid on his lungs. Now, there was that fake tweet that went viral, claiming he saw pure evil, which was debunked.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the actual event?
The actual event, a famous explorer going there, getting sick, leaving flu work. Suddenly, it just added more fuel to the fire, more whispers about something dangerous or hidden being kept under wraps.
And beyond these big names, there are just practical things that look like controlled access, the no-fly zones.
Huge swaths of the continent are designated no-fly zones. Official reasons. Safety, magnetic anomalies making navigation tricky, plausible.
But the alternative take
is that they're primarily there to keep prying eyes, especially aerial surveillance, away from sensitive areas, forbidden zones. And then there's the satellite imagery issue.
on Google Earth and stuff, where bits are just missing or blurry.
Exactly. Large areas often blurred out, low resolution, sometimes just blank patches, or areas that look clearly patched over digitally. Why? If it's just ice. And people who try to go into those areas independently, private expeditions,
They tend to get stopped quickly and efficiently. There was that Russian helicopter pilot, Sergei Antonov, in 2018, trying a solo flight to the pole, intercepted and turned back while he was still preparing in Chile.
So when you add it all up, the treaty, the high-level visits, the no-fly zones, the dodgy satellite pics, the stopped expeditions.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a huge leap to consider the possibility presented in these sources that someone really doesn't want unvetted people seeing what's hidden down there.
It makes you think of Area 51, doesn't it? But maybe bigger.
That's a comparison made in some sources. Area 51 is the classic symbol of U.S. government secrecy, UFOs, alleged alien tech. But Antarctica potentially hides secrets even more profound. It's arguably become the planet's real Area 51, just hidden in plain sight, covered in ice.
And that connects back to some older conspiracies, too, like the Nazi base.
Yep.
Base 211.
Neuschwabenland, yeah. That story just won't die. Based on real Nazi expeditions to Neuschwabenland in the late 30s. The conspiracy adds a secret, fortified base under the ice, a refuge.
And a hub for advanced Nazi tech. Flying discs, maybe. Even contact with others.
That's part of the wilder speculation. Did they find something, ally with something, get chased out by something? Are its secrets still buried there?
Then came the Cold War bases. McMurdo, the big U.S. one. Vostok, the Russian one.
Officially, science outposts. But the rumors persist. Beneath the surface labs, maybe there are deeper, secret underground facilities. Labs, tunnels, gateways.
Vostok Station is particularly intriguing, isn't it? Sitting right over Lake Vostok.
That massive subglacial lake, isolated for millions of years, when the Russians were drilling down and suddenly stopped just short of breaking through.
Officially, it was to prevent contaminating the pristine lake water. Makes sense.
But the skeptics, the alternative sources, they wondered. Did the drill detect something unexpected down there? A structure? An artifact? An underwater base entrance, maybe? Something guarded?
And McMurdo, the U.S. hub.
Similar rumors. Talk of a hidden, multi-level complex buried deep beneath the official station. Doing what? Classified research, reverse engineering recovered tech, maybe even facilitating discreet meetings.
Antarctica's just perfect for hiding things, isn't it? The isolation, the ice shield, the treaty controlling access.
It really is. If you wanted a place to conduct secret operations, study forbidden things, or maybe even interact with non-human intelligences away from public view,
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine a better location on Earth. It could well be the 21st century's ultimate black site.
And just to reiterate the scale of this hidden area, it's mind-boggling.
It really is. Antarctica is almost twice the size of Australia, and yet over 98% of it effectively off-limits to you, me, the general public.
We only get these tiny coastal fringes, managed tourist spots, the vast interior, lockdown, treaties, safety rules, environmental concerns,
Fortress of
ice and bureaucracy.
Now, let's be fair. The official reasons for restrictions, they have weight. Protecting that unique, fragile environment, absolutely critical. It's like nowhere else.
Yeah, disturbing ancient microbes frozen in the ice, introducing invasive species. Those are real risks. It is a biological time capsule.
Definitely. So being extremely cautious about human impact, especially in pristine areas, makes scientific and ecological sense. Strict rules are needed.
But, and here's the but raised in the sources, there's this apparent contradiction.
Right. On one hand, governments and scientists constantly tell us, Antarctica holds the keys to our future.
Hmm.
Climate change secrets, predicting sea level rise, finding ways to survive on other planets, understanding Earth's past. It's all supposedly locked in the ice cores, the subglacial geology.
It's presented as absolutely vital for humanity's survival.
Yet, on the other hand, they severely restrict access to the very place where all these crucial answers are supposedly located, 98% of it.
We can't really say all the answers we need are in there, and also say, but no, you can't go look in most of it. It feels inconsistent.
Protecting specific fragile ecosystems is one thing. That's logical. But sealing off almost an entire continent for over 60 years, under agreements that seem increasingly opaque, citing environmental reasons while simultaneously trumpeting its unique importance.
It hints at something else, a different level of secrecy.
That's what the sources suggest. A scale of withheld knowledge that goes beyond just protecting penguins or preventing contamination.
So where does that leave us? After wading through all these accounts, the early explorers, Byrd, the sightings, the military stories, the theories, the layers of secrecy, the big question is still hanging there, isn't it?
Are the ice wall guardians real? Are they actually out there patrolling the ice?
And based purely on what's publicly available, dissected from these varied sources, the honest answer is...
We just don't know for sure. Nobody in the public sphere does.
But maybe the more unsettling truth, the one that really emerges from the sheer volume of these persisting stories and the undeniable level of control and secrecy, is that someone, or some group with a lot of power, really doesn't want you finding out the answer.
You've got this immense place, nearly twice Australia, and 98% of it is effectively hidden. Behind ice, behind treaties, behind keep-out signs.
So maybe the real question these sources push us towards isn't just, are the guardians out there? It's more like, considering how long the secrecy has been in place, how long have they really been here, and what exactly are they guarding? Are they guarding us from something out there, or are they guarding something from us?